Good morning, school, and welcome to today's reflection section, which is on Holocaust Memorial Day 2026. On the 27th of January each year, we mark the anniversary of the liberation of Auschwitz-Birkenau, the largest Nazi concentration camp in occupied Poland. More than 1 million Jewish men, women and children were murdered at Auschwitz-Birkenau, and more in other camps and locations across Europe in a crime known as the Holocaust. 6 million Jewish people across Europe were murdered by the Nazis and their collaborators, including 90% of all Europe's Jewish children, which was around 1.5 million at the time. Millions of non-Jewish people were also targeted by the Nazis and their collaborators during this time. 2026 marked the 81st anniversary of the liberation of Auschwitz. As time passes, we face the heartbreaking reality that within the next decade, we may no longer have the privilege of hearing stories from those who lived through the horrors of the Holocaust. And when that moment comes, we risk losing more than just personal memories. Without these living witnesses, the depth of the suffering and the urgency to confront hatred and intolerance in our own time could easily begin to fade. The theme for Holocaust Memorial Day 2026 is Bridging Generations. It is a call to action for all of us, a reminder that the responsibility of remembrance does not end with the survivors. It lives on through their children, their grandchildren, and through all of us. In order to bridge the generations, we must first understand who those generations are. The murdered generation were the victims of the Holocaust and other genocides whose lives were taken away. The first generation are the survivors of those genocides, precious few of whom still survive today. However, the first generation were those who recorded their testimonies to ensure that we had first-hand accounts to learn exactly what happened. The second and third generations are becoming ever more important. They are the children and grandchildren of survivors who ensure that their relatives' stories live on. We are the people today, those who remember the Holocaust and other genocides, but perhaps have no link to survivors. How do we bridge the generations? We do that by sharing the stories and testimonies of survivors. We listen, we learn, and we carry those lessons forward. By doing so, we build a bridge between memory and action, between history and hope for the future. And today, we're going to learn about one Holocaust survivor in order to help us bridge the generations. The Holocaust survivor we're going to look at today is Anita Lasker-Wallfisch. She was born in Germany. Her father was a lawyer and her mother was a violinist. Her and her 3 sisters lived a perfectly normal and happy childhood until Anita was aged 12. On the 9th of November 1938, Kristallnacht occurred. This was the destruction of Jewish shops, homes, businesses and schools as reprisal for the death of a Nazi politician abroad. From this moment on, Anita's life changed completely. Her and her family had to move to a flat owned by her aunt. She was no longer allowed to attend school, and her and her sisters were no longer allowed to attend the orchestra that they so loved. In 1942, after the Wannsee Conference, Hitler decided that not only were the Jews to be deported away from cities, he also wanted them to be exterminated altogether. As part of this, deportations occurred, and aged just 16, Anita's parents were taken away and killed in an Einsatzgruppen shooting in Poland. From that moment on, Anita was on her own. She got a job in a paper factory. Whilst working at the paper factory, Anita forged fake documents, and she tried to use these to escape somewhere safe. Unfortunately, using the fake papers, she was very quickly caught and arrested as a criminal. Her punishment was to be sent to Auschwitz. Auschwitz was the largest extermination camp used during the Holocaust. The majority of people who went there never got out. Fortunately for Anita, however, the Nazi guards very quickly realised that she had a musical background, so they hired her to work in the camp orchestra. Every morning and every evening, Anita and the other members of the camp orchestra had to play music for the workers who were either going to work or coming back from work. They also had to be available at all times of the day to play individual music for the SS staff members who requested it. Anita managed to survive a year in Auschwitz, working in the camp orchestra. However, as January 1945 approached, Anita and the rest of the Auschwitz prisoners were moved away from Auschwitz on a death march towards other camps in Europe. She was sent to Bergen-Belsen and very quickly realised that it was very different to where she had been at Auschwitz. She said, "There are no words to describe Belsen. The dead bodies are piling up. There was no food. There was no water. Nothing. It was clear that we had come to the end of the line. It was very hot in April, and the effect of the temperature on the mountains of bodies was horrendous." These words are shocking, but they bring to life the reality of what Anita had managed to survive through. She was certain that she would not make it out of Belsen. However, at 5 p.m. on the 15th of April 1945, a miracle occurred and the first British tank rolled into Bergen-Belsen to help liberate the prisoners. Anita managed to survive the liberation, and she went to England after the war, where she married and had a family and became a musician. Her story is remarkable, and she has spent her entire life recalling it to thousands of students just like you. The first-hand accounts of Anita and other Holocaust survivors deepen our emotional connection to tragedy in a way that no textbook ever could. They move us, they challenge us, and most importantly, they help us to stand as a powerful defence against the denial and distortion of history. The impact of genocide does not end with those who directly experienced it, but it ripples through the different generations. We clearly have a lot to learn. It is important to build bridges with all people, even if you wouldn't normally interact with them, thus ensuring that the depths of suffering of the Holocaust and other genocides, and the urgency to confront all hatred and intolerance we see, never truly fades. Thank you for listening.